Welcome to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, a place for working Muslim women to share their stories, struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way in pursuit of their careers. I'm Dr. Kali Hussein.
And I'm Dr. Hani Ahmed. And in this podcast, we bring inspirational, trailblazing, successful, and fulfilled professional Muslim women to you.
Get ready to be inspired and learn how you can forge your own path as well.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Professional Muslim Women Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Hani Ahmed. And before I get started with my new guest, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have been a part of this platform. Since we started this journey, we've been able to connect with many wonderful Muslim women doing wonderful things. And it's been really awesome. So remember that you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, and almost every podcasting platform. All right, so let's get started. Today, I have a really special guest. I have Deqa Gelle, and let me tell you a little bit about her. Deqa has over 10 years of professional experience working in the recruitment and HR industry. She has worked for corporations in London, UK, Toronto, Canada, and Hong Kong. Today, she is the founder and owner of One Stone HR and specializes in personal and professional branding for individuals and corporations. Cultivating a story that is uniquely yours that also stands out from the mundane crowd to achieve your goals is her passion. This entails telling the story, a focus area, ingenuity, and most importantly, creating a positive impact for the wider community. This is what she tries to live by on a daily basis. Please help me welcome Deqa Gelle. Welcome to the show, Deqa.
Hi, honey. Hi, guys. I'm so honored to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We are so happy to have you here. I'm so excited to interview you because as a woman, minority Muslim woman, you are in a sector that you don't see other women who look like you, I bet. So I'm really excited to find out how you got to where you are and what's that like. So let's start at the beginning. We love to kind of head back and talk about your early experiences, maybe high school or college. Where were you when you kind of started off on your path, and how did you get to where you are today?
Honestly, it wasn't as calculated. Like, I wasn't 10 years old and I wasn't like, I want to be in HR or I want to be in recruitment. Like, I didn't even know what that stuff was. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I actually started. So I got into recruitment and HR really kind of by accident. So, it was the first company that hired me after school, and I was kind of like doing admin for them. It was a temp job, and that's how I started. And after like a couple of weeks, I was like, I want to be a recruiter. So I went to the manager and, they started training me, and that's how I got into it. So it was completely by accident. But the dreams and aspirations that I had when I finished school or while I was in school was, I wanted to work for the UN or like travel the world and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Me and you both.
and then there wasn't many jobs going at the time.
Okay, awesome. So what was that like kind of going through the ranks? You started off in admin and agents your own business. So tell me about what was that like starting off kind of at the bottom of the hierarchy and climbing up the ladder?
So kind of to tell you, when they started me off as a recruiter, I just thought you kind of give people jobs. And that's all I wanted to do. But actually, to be a recruitment consultant that works in an agency, you have to do sales and business development. And it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was also the greatest gift because it requires you to put yourself out there. It requires you to call strangers and meet with strangers and ask for business. So I'm like this 22-year-old Somali girl living in London, and I'm calling like 50-year-old CEOs. And I'm like, hi, my name is Deqa, and, let me help you and let me come to, So the first thing I did was ask for a meeting. And the first 100 times I did this, they said no to me. The receptionist hung up the phone on me and I was devastated. I took it personally and I cried and I thought I was a loser. But you know what? I had a really good trainer that was like, you keep striving. And she said, you make 100 calls a day and only 10 people will speak to you. And out of those 10 people, you might get one meeting.
That sounds tough.
Right? So I didn't get my first meeting until 2 months into that position. So I just kept on going. I kept on going. I didn't want to be fired. And then I got my first meeting and I bombed. I was crap. You know, the CEO was like, why are you here? But that's how you build muscles, right? Yeah. You know, for me, I failed the first few times for sure. But just showing up and making those calls again and calling that CEO again and asking for business. And that's how I got business. And I became the top recruiter within a year.
Wow, mashallah. Clearly, you have a lot of temerity. Tell me, why didn't you quit? A lot of people would have probably quit. What was that thing that kept driving you to keep going?
Honestly, I have no idea looking back now, except for I was young and hungry and wanted to make money. And I wanted to make my parents proud, you know? So that's the only thing that I can think of right now. And also I looked up to the other recruiters who had been there like 5-6 years and they were driving Mercedes and, you know, they were making money. Like at the time I lived in London and London was expensive. And honestly, like vanity at the time, I was like, I want nice things. I want to make money. That's it. And I think my naivety helped.
Well, you know, at that age, when you're young, for sure, that's a huge motivating factor, right?
Yeah.
Looking at people who've achieved success, who are on the path that you're on. Okay, awesome, cool. So tell me, there was a point that you decided that you were going to start your own business. Tell me how you came to that transition and what motivated you to start your own business and what was it like?
Just a little bit of a backstory. So in recruitment, there's 2 types of recruitment. There's the agency recruitment that requires you to do a lot of business development. And there's the corporate recruiting. The corporate recruiting is when you work for a company and you hire for the company you work for. So you fill positions of, it's kind of like working in a hospital and filling all the positions in the hospital. So I went from agency recruitment to corporate recruiting. So I moved to Canada about 6 years ago, 6 years ago. And I was working for a company in Asia, in Hong Kong, and I was recruiting internationally for them. Now, honestly, I started to read about very successful people and I started to imagine possibilities. And this is also a part where I went through a lot of self-development and I went through challenges and so forth. Now, I had at the time a really good position, but I wasn't satisfied. And what I mean by like, the best way I can describe it is like, I felt like I wasn't doing my purpose. My soul wasn't fulfilled, you know, because I was working for a company. But that's what happened. And I knew I could do this job for another 20 years and make decent money. But I knew like I wanted more. And that's purely because I started self-development about 2-3 years prior.
Wow, yeah.
So with the type of self-development I did, it kind of unearthed, you know, why am I here? And I knew money wasn't going to satisfy me. I knew like, it's nice to have security. And I always want security. Especially being a refugee and my parents and all of that stuff. But I knew ultimately that it wasn't going to like make me sleep so peacefully at night, you know? And I guess I was looking for that soul fulfillment is the best way I can describe it. So I knew I couldn't do that working for somebody else. And the biggest thing of what I discovered was that I wanted to give back. And I couldn't really give back the way I wanted to working 9 to 5 for somebody else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. I just have to say this because, you know, this seems to be the thread in all of the people that we've interviewed or just people who are successful. And when we talk to them, it's this like, this driving, you know, this drive that they have, this motivation, their heart needs to be in it. And, you know, like you said, security is where we start. You know, we want that. That's kind of the go-to.
That baseline, yes.
Yeah, but once you get there, and especially when you're exploring self-development, personal growth, and thinking about what do you want out of life, and what are you capable of, and what do you really desire? What's your heart's desire? it's incredible how, the stories are kind of line up where it's like, and the difference it makes, in the quality of your life. I don't want to go too deep down this, but as you're telling me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I keep hearing this over and over again. Clearly, this is where the key is, but that's amazing. So you knew that you weren't working for someone else in the secure job. It wasn't doing it for you.
Exactly. It wasn't doing it for me. I knew I could coast, but I didn't want to coast. I didn't want to just go through life coasting and like retire and like all of that stuff. So it was a really, really tough decision. And, some people nearest and dearest to me were like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Because especially being a refugee, it felt like growing up, the highest goal that I could go for or the biggest achievement was having a job that provided for me. That was it. So I got to that place. So people were like, why would you take such a big risk? Are you insane? Don't quit your job. Don't quit your job. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do both of them side by side. But for me, it just didn't work doing them side by side. So I had to rip the Band-Aid.
Wow.
I had to rip the Band-Aid. And actually what happened was in December of 2019, I was in London visiting family. And I went to my best friend and
2018?
2018, just this past year.
Gotcha.
I went to my best friend and I was like, oh my God, like Hamdi, you wouldn't believe what happened. My boss and like this is happening in the company. And she's the one person that knows all of the details, and she knows all of the players. And she was like, stop, Deqa. I don't want to hear it. I'm done. She goes, either do something about it or accept the situation. And I was like, whoa.
That's a good friend.
At the time, I was like, that's not very supportive. Oh my God,
Right in the moment.
Right in the moment. I was like, she goes, no, I'm done hearing about this. I'm done hearing about the dramas. She goes, you already have your own company. You've been sitting on it. Either do something about it. So while I still had the courage, within 45 minutes, I wrote my resignation letter.
Wow.
I did it. And that was December 2018. And I did it, and the sense of relief and the sense of peace that came over me was incredible.
Wow.
However, in January, when I went back to my apartment in Toronto, I was so scared. I went through a 2-week period of like, oh my God, am I crazy? All the fears came back.
All the fears come up,
Yeah, all of like, are you insane and so forth. So
very normal to feel that way.
Yeah. So I gave them notice, put my ducks in, saved a little bit of money. That's it. So went full time in 2019 with my own business, and I made no money at the beginning. And in August of this year, I became self-supporting again.
Wonderful.
I was able to pay myself. I was able to pay my bills. So, it took a few months, but I've never felt this good in my whole life. So, alhamdulillah, I can't even tell you.
MashaAllah. Wow, what an incredible story. And you read it in development books and you listen to people and, they talk about that fear, of taking risk. Of course, anything that is worth something to you requires risks. But there's small risks for small returns, and there's big risks for big returns.
Absolutely.
And the amount of, just strength it takes to take on that risk in order to chase those, that bigger return. And fulfillment is a lot. It's quite a lot.
Honestly, I don't think I would have done it without working on myself every day, making sure that my routine was in order. For example, if I wasn't exercising, if I wasn't meditating every day, if I wasn't, reading and like writing and all of these things, because these tiny little things are what keeps me going and keeps the imposter syndrome, the fear, lowers the volume of all of that down. I have to take care of that internally every single day for me to show up for myself and other people. For me, that's the only way I can do it.
That's incredible. Yeah. And really good advice for all those who are contemplating, making the leap. It's about how do you get over the self-doubt and the fears and make that leap. So, wow, that's incredible. Congratulations, Steph.
Thank you.
So glad about that. And I really hope the most success, just unfiltered success for your business.
Oh, thank you. So kind.
So I guess one of the things we'd like to ask our guests is about any obstacles that they faced, maybe as a woman working in a male-dominated space, or maybe cultural or religious barriers. Have you come across any of that in your path of professional development and growth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first things first, I have an abo that is incredible. I have a Hoya that is incredible. So, my father is actually a professor and so forth back home. So Abo always raised us, because he had 3 daughters first. Abo always raised us as like anything is possible or Kaleta. So like for me, I never felt different to my brothers, So
Wonderful.
that really helped. Number 2, my Hoya is very, very cultural. So she was always like, the one that was a bit hardcore on that side. So honestly, the biggest obstacle for me has always been self-doubt. The biggest obstacle for me has always been like not believing in my own abilities. Also, when I went full-time and putting myself out there, like I have to do a lot of marketing for my business and so forth. So I have to post regularly. And also, while I'm modest, I'm not a hijabi. So I got a lot of pushback from like our people, especially men. So just to give you an example, like for every, I'll be honest, but every like 6 amazing private messages that I get from people who are like, you're really helping me, I would get 4 private messages. And funnily enough, from men and sometimes from people that I know who are like, how shall I say, I don't know, like they'll be like, Eb, or like cover yourself, or stop being a Christian. And I'm like, what? And they'll say really mean and negative things like, you won't be successful because you're not wearing a hijab, or you're going to hell, or trolls. But basically what they are is trolls.
They're trolls.
Also, negative stuff from family as well, right? I know they want the best for me and so forth, but they're also from a different generation to us. They grew up in a different place to us. So I'll get a lot of messages like, we don't do this and that kind of stuff. But honestly, when it comes to being the only woman, or the only Black woman, or the only Somali woman, or whatever the case might be, like a long time ago, somebody said to me, the best advice they gave me was like, pretend like you're a white man.
I love that.
Like pretend like you're a white man. So I walk into a room and pretend like I'm a white man. Not like in the sense of like I would act masculine or anything like that. But so that would, and then, I do the Wonder Woman pose in the bathroom before I go to any meetings. But again, I always make sure that I take care of like that. Like I make sure that I do my goals for that day, make sure that I exercise that day, not for any reason other than it gives me like mental strength. Is the best way that I can describe it. It gives me mental strength. And then so when I focus in the morning and I focus on all of the things that I have and my gratitude, for example, which is like all the gifts that Ilahi has given me, I don't pay too much attention to the negative things, right? So
that's incredible. Those 3 things that you had mentioned, these are 3 things that Muslim women, especially Muslim women in patriarchal cultures, face just uniformly,
Absolutely.
Women, by a way higher proportion to men, feel, the self-doubt about, am I good enough for this? Or do I belong here? Can I fill these shoes? Men don't have that. And there's some research about how girls are parented compared to boys.
Absolutely.
In terms of what they can accomplish in school, that really plays into that as adults when we start to doubt ourselves and wonder, can I do these things that I want to do? Of course, societal, parental, familial pressures, expectations. This is another subject that we kind of touched a little bit on it in the beginning of our podcast, but this is something that we deal with as women uniquely, is that there's all these expectations from every corner of the community, and it's like these messages that are completely opposed, but everyone who's sending these messages feel that they are entitled to say to you, And Khalid and I were actually talking about doing an episode just on the subject because of the amount of negative opinions that Muslim women face, whether it's this group saying you shouldn't cover or this group saying you should cover up, It's this like unsolicited advice that is continuously coming at you,
Blows my mind. And for me, and again, I honestly, like, not to talk negatively about men, but like, I always get these unsolicited advice from men that come from my community.
Yeah.
And I find that really tough at the beginning. And so I kind of just like, I have to let it go. And sometimes I have to block.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that some of us are not well.
Yeah.
Some of us are not well. Some of us are dealing with demons that we can't see, so they project.
Yeah. I've read an article about, women who use Twitter, for example, how degree of like trollish, responses that they get is in a completely separately than what men get. It's almost, there's this entitlement in these trolls or these people who feel like they have something to say about you or to you, so they're going to message you, whereas they don't, have that same sense of entitlement to men. And it's especially prominent with minority women. This is a documented phenomenon. So, for us, it's like, how do we remember that this isn't about us? This is about these people.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. So there's a post of me and my father on Instagram, and I posted, and in this post, I talk about how when I decided to leave my marriage at the time, I told my dad everything, Abo and Hoy, mom and dad. And then my father, I remember, said to me, he said it in Somali, but I'll translate in English, which is like, he goes, okay, Abo, I stand shoulder to shoulder with you. It's the very correct translation. So in this post, it's the first time that I admit that I am a divorced woman on social media, and how the love and the support of my family helped me get through the most difficult time of my life. So this post is the most popular, and I got the most private messages, whereas I couldn't respond to everybody. I got so many private messages that said, I went through the same thing. I didn't have the same support. Thank you so much, Deqa. I really appreciate it, and so forth. Because it's such a stigma in our community.
Yeah.
With this post, however, I got direct phone calls from people that I really care about, who are close to me, who said to me, why are you exposing your business? Why are you telling people that you're divorced? Why are you embarrassing our family? All of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. And they told me directly to take it down. And I said, thank you for your advice. I really appreciate it. And I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I never took down that post. And you know who the people who, they were men again.
Of course. It's almost like their job was just showing you the point, right?
Yeah.
They were proving the point of these women who reached out and said, I could never talk about this, It's because there's other people who are saying this is stigma, this is an issue, it needs to be hidden, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you'll definitely, especially if you have somewhat of a public profile, will hear about all kinds of horrible, negative opinions. But, I wish people would just let people be and live their lives.
And I refuse to be shamed. Like, I did that to myself for years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you now. Alhamdulillah, I have a little bit more strength.
Yeah.
But
Mashallah.
I did it to myself for years, and I was like, no, and I'm so glad I didn't. So
and it makes it almost worthwhile, doesn't it, when you've reached other women who say, I could never talk about this before.
Oh,
I can now because you talked about it publicly.
It gave me so much light. My heart grew in a way. So many people that I don't know reached out to me and said, I have a 2-month-old and I just went through the same thing. Thank you. Like, the fact that you've been through it, and like, oh my God, like, my advice is like, everybody has been through something similar. Whatever we've been through is not unique. So sharing your story helps 10, 15 other people. So just know that you're not alone, and, you sharing is like really helping somebody else.
I love that. Thank you. The stigma around divorce, it's like 50%, right? The divorce rate. It happens. Like, half, you know what I mean? Literally half the populace is, so it's crazy that there's this much, stigma and shame. But thank you for bringing that to light. Deqa, looking back, is there anything you wish, you had known when you were younger on your journey, when you were starting out? Another way to put this question is, if there's some young women who are in their early 20s and considering, going into that path, maybe they're interested in HR and recruitment, perhaps they are thinking about starting a business. What advice would you give them, or yourself when you were younger?
So 2 things. action, action, action.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get so caught up in theory and learning and research that I end up wasting a lot of time. But you don't get better. You don't learn how to run if you don't start walking first. You know, if you don't start jogging first.
Well said.
That's how it works. I'm not going to learn how to run by reading or listen to documentaries or watching a film or whatever the case might be. That's how. So action, 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 but small action. Don't go big, you know? Every day is a new day, and start with just small steps. So that's what I wished I had known. The other thing as well is, like, we live in such an amazing time that virtual mentors are everywhere, right? So if you're on social media or YouTube or whatever the case might be, like, learn from others. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been invented.
Well said.
So, you know, and that's how I only knew it was possible because other people had done it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right? You can't be what you can't see.
Exactly.
We say that a lot on the show.
Exactly. And when you read their experiences, and like, anybody that's been great fails a million times before they get somewhere. So know that you will fail. Know that you will scrape your knees, but you'll be okay and you'll be so much stronger, because I'm still scraping my knees today. But you better believe, like, my skin is getting stronger. You better believe, like, my muscles are tougher. I'm learning. So I would just say, learn, and start walking. And doing that action.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. What wonderful advice. So many lessons from your journey. I really, really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. Thank you so much, Deqa.
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me anywhere, Deqa Gelle. And I would love to hear from you guys. And thank you so much for having me, Hani. Like, and she invited me to her home. And, you know, we're just all here for each other, you know? And like, for me, sisterhood and like learning from other women. All of my virtual mentors are women. People that I network with are women. I align myself with other strong women, and that's why I'm here today.
That's awesome. Thank you. And for those of you listening, if you would like to contact Deqa or find out more about her, I will be leaving her website and social media tags in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. See you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning into the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, the place for Muslim women to inspire and be inspired.
Please join us on our Facebook group, Professional Muslim Women, to continue the conversation and connect with Muslim women like you. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and drop us a like or a review.
We look forward to hearing from you soon.